Hello, everyone, and welcome to Healthy Through the Holidays. I am Bethany Zell. I am a certified health and wellness coach with Zell Being, and I am so excited to be here tonight to finally do a wellness workshop. This is my first live wellness workshop since I left my full-time public health job. So I'm excited to be kind of doing this again and here to share this great information with all of you tonight. Excuse me. So if you've been following along, we have been working through the holidays together to try and stay focused on our health and wellness goals, because just because it's the holidays, which is a tricky time of year, we don't have to just give up and give in and take the weight of everything in the holiday season on us so that we have setbacks come the beginning of the new year. We can go into the new year having maintained our health and wellness goals and not have to kind of start over fresh every January 1st. So if you've been hanging out with me for this time, you've gotten some recipe guides and some clean eating ideas and suggestions. You've gotten some new recipes to try out and some guidance on how to set some goals for yourself that are achievable and how to put all those recipes together in a meal plan type of situation. So I hope you're finding this information helpful, and I look forward to continuing to share with you tonight. And what I've done here tonight is I've actually kind of condensed 6 weeks of my Healthy Through the Holidays, Signature Healthy Through the Holidays program to bring you the highlights, the big key points for how you can get through the holidays in a healthy mindset that's going to set you up to be successful in the new year and beyond. And so a lot of what I'm going to share tonight is applicable not just through the holidays, although there is a tie-in for each of them to the holidays. A lot of these tips are practical for everyday life, right? So we'll get started because I've got a lot of content to share tonight. So how many of you have heard this expression, mindfulness? Well, most of the time when we eat, we just really think about it from that physical standpoint. We're hungry, and so we eat. But really, when we talk about being mindful, it means approaching our food from more than just a place of satisfying that physical hunger, but also looking at how we are emotionally attached to our food. What are we feeling about the food? And knowing the difference between our body's physical and emotional hunger. And all of those things combined together is what's referred to as mindful eating. And so when I lost the majority of my weight and had my big weight loss, 5 or so years ago, the foundation for it really was focusing on this and shifting my mindset from viewing my weight loss efforts as merely a diet, which in my mind is a temporary thing, and really beginning to be mindful about how I approached food. How was I eating? How did I feel when I was eating? What was I feeling and why was I eating? Was I eating as a response to something that I was feeling? And once I began to investigate all of these different facets of my relationship with food, I really began to be able to make better, healthier choices because I was more aware of actually what had been going on and what was happening. So in order for us to be prepared as we head into the holidays and even beyond, we need that awareness. We can't go into this situation with blinders on or viewing it like it's a temporary thing, because those temporary mindsets always fail us in the long term. It's never sustainable, right? So we have to know what we're currently doing and if what we're doing is actually in response to physical hunger or whether it's based in an emotional response. And that can easily be determined. And this is something I shared earlier on our Healthy Through the Holidays journey. But when I lost my weight, a great deal of my success was tied to the fact that I became astutely aware of the differences between what you see on the screen here, physical hunger and emotional hunger. And as you can see, it really can be a foundational place for growth, knowledge, and awareness, and give us that ability to make healthier choices. So let's take a look at some of these. So physical hunger tends to come on gradually, and it can be postponed. So if you're really physically hungry, truly physically hungry, and you're on a car ride home from somewhere and it's a couple hours drive, you can put off physical hunger. You can say, all right, I'm going to wait until I get home and eat when I get there. So it's not urgent. There's nothing urgent about a real physical hunger. It doesn't come up out of all of a sudden, and it doesn't come up out of nowhere and immediately you're like, boom, I'm starving. That kind of a sudden and urgent hunger typically comes from a place of emotion. And physical hunger can be satisfied with any kind of food, any number of foods, really. It wouldn't necessarily matter what you were being offered to eat, because if you're physically hungry, any kind of food will satisfy that. It's going to nourish you. It's going to give you calories. It doesn't matter what it tastes like. Emotional hunger is the kind that causes those specific cravings. These are the ones that make you want ice cream, and nothing except ice cream is going to satisfy the hunger, the craving that you're feeling. You're craving something very, very specific. And if you're being offered something different than what you're craving, you don't want it. And that's a very easy way to know that you are dealing with some emotional triggers and hungers. When you're physically hungry and you start to eat, when you get full, you'll stop. You're not going to overdo it on food that's satisfying a real physical hunger. But emotionally, we can eat and eat and eat and eat and almost have a second stomach, right? For all the sweets and things that we didn't have room for. And I know that we don't actually have a second stomach, but you can sometimes get past that feeling of fullness from a dinner portion of a meal and have more room for that sweet dessert portion. And that would be equipped by an emotional hunger. Another difference in these physical and emotional hungers is the feeling of guilt that comes after eating emotionally. You know, those are the kind of eating sessions that we try to hide. Maybe we're consuming more calories than we know is good for us, and so we're embarrassed, or maybe we're aware that what we're doing is not the best thing for our health and wellness or our weight loss or weight management efforts. And so we have that guilt. It can cause a lot of guilt when we eat emotionally and overdo it, and we know we really weren't hungry. And those feelings of guilt are not from a place of physical hunger. Those are emotional. And so beginning to look at these differences and calling them out for what they are it can sometimes be very, very hard in the beginning. Sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you really can't even realize what's happening, or that you're eating emotionally or to excess outside of meal times. And so one of the ways that you can begin to identify some of those emotional eating times is to track your food, even for a short time. And I challenged everyone to that in the very beginning of our Healthy Holidays journey. And if you've heard from me before or heard my story, you know I'm not a real big fan or an advocate for tracking and measuring and weighing and mapping out all the foods, spending hours and hours a day writing it all down, because for me, that kind of puts me in a place where I'm spending so much time occupied with thinking about writing, tracking, weighing, measuring, prepping, shopping, all the things that go with a healthy food plan or a diet plan, so to speak. And if you've ever been on a very intense diet regimen, you may agree, but for me, it sometimes feels like a full-time job to do a healthy eating plan. And so for me, putting that much focus and time and energy into planning and tracking seems counterintuitive for me as somebody who struggles with food addiction, because you're basically forcing me to think and act on food all day long. So it seems contrary to my goal long-term to do tracking up to that extent. But for short periods of time, to really understand what you're currently doing, or the status quo, so to speak, it is essential that you do track your food. And so I do it occasionally. I've never done it long term. Well, I guess I've never done it long term, because any diet that required that was a short term thing. And I quickly gave up on it because it became too tedious. But when I was finally found success, I would do it for a short time just to kind of understand where I was at. And if I could feel myself getting off course, I might reset by tracking again, just to see where things had gone wrong, so that I could compare and see it on paper and see what was really happening. And so if you're not really sure, that's the best place to start. You need to know what's happening if you want to make any kind of change, because if you're going into it with blinders on, it's going to be easy to keep those blinders on. And then when the road gets a little rough, you're going to fall away. You're going to find and look for and find what you think might be an easier path, but it's just going to continue to set you back on this vicious cycle that we all want to get rid of. So track if you must for a short period of time, just to know what you're doing. And as you begin to do this, you're going to begin to experience benefits of mindful eating. It's very much, once that awareness is there, it's hard to take it away. Once you've taken the blinders off and you see what things are, it becomes that much more recognizable. And so you'll learn those differences between the physical and emotional hunger cues, which will equip you to make better choices as far as what you're consuming. And over time, you'll begin to look for and find more positive ways of experiencing the food that you eat, really cherishing the moments with food and the relationships that are formed around the table, as opposed to what you're eating. And so we won't be as focused on the foods themselves, but more the experience that the food provides, whether it's with family or friends, or even by ourselves, savoring the tastes and all of the sensory pieces that go with enjoying a meal. You have to remember, we are equipped and empowered to make good decisions, but they are decisions that we need to continuously make. And that ability becomes easier the more mindful we become. So over time, you begin to make more nutritious and delicious food choices, as opposed to just being at a loss and out of control and eating because somebody put something on the table somewhere. We always have a choice, and we need to remember that, especially when it comes to food. We have a choice of what we put into our mouths. Just because it's on a table, just because it's on a counter in front of us, does not mean that we have to eat it. So being mindful really is the gateway to being able to make the choices that we need to make to maintain our health and wellness goals all throughout the holiday season and beyond. And when we become mindful, we tend to look primarily at the beginning about our nutrition and what we can be doing and things that we can be changing, and how we need to approach our nutrition when we're trying to maintain our weight goals and handle possibility of overweight, or when we're even just looking about overall health and wellness, because there are a lot of things you can do nutritionally to boost yourself up in the health and wellness category in the holidays and beyond. So one of those big things that I try and do all the time is to eat a balanced diet. And so everyone has a different idea of what this looks like. This is generally the kind of plate that I subscribe to. A lot of healthy organic protein, lean proteins, non-starchy vegetables, almost half the plate, low glycemic carbs, which can be fruits or grains or legumes, different ways of getting nutrients and as much bang for your buck as you can. Healthy fats as opposed to deep fried fats. So those are like our seeds and our raw dairy and avocado and different kind of plant-based foods that provide a healthy form of fat that our body needs to thrive. And then, of course, clean water. And so when we're kind of visually using these types of plates as a visual of what we need to be doing throughout the day, when we're doing this, the majority of the time, when we do go out to a Christmas party and we don't have control over what that plate looks like, it's not going to be as big a deal because we've been doing this the majority of the time. And so trying to make sure that you're getting a well-rounded assortment of your nutrients at every other meal that you are able to control is going to help you when you do face those meals or dining out or party experiences where you may not have the say in what's going on your plate. So as much as you can, getting that well-balanced nutrition throughout your day. And you can also do this because we get in a rut, but adding more color and variety to the plate, trying new vegetables, trying new fruits, trying new ways to get different nutrients and phytonutrients that we need in our food. And, each color of food provides a different plethora of nutrients that we can need and that nourish our body and help us be stronger. And this little graphic talks about some of the different things that you'll find in some of the colored foods. So, like blue purple, they've got those polyphenols that are great for your memory and it helps with mineral absorption. And then orange produce has beta carotene, which is great for your eye health. So things like carrots and orange bell peppers. Red foods tend to keep your heart health strong. They're great for heart health. So beets and strawberries and all the red delicious apples you can desire. And then every single one has their place. And so the more that you're diversifying and getting a rainbow on your plate, the more you're inviting those different nutrients in to round out your nourishing protection as you go about the holidays. So the more we can maximize the nutrient intake that we're getting in the majority of our life, the more room we have to have those little things that are special to the holidays that might not be on a traditional diet plan, so to speak. But if, as much as we're getting some of these great benefits elsewhere, we don't have to feel as bad about those things because, there's really no good or bad food. It's food. We're assigning these human-like characteristics to our food, which they never really should have had. So diversify, get lots and lots of color and balance out those meals going into the holidays. And specifically, as you go into the holiday season and all the social situations that might come, especially when it comes to those special foods that I mentioned that are associated with the holidays. I don't know about you, but there have been many, many times where I was going out for the evening and I knew there was going to be a big meal or a lot of food, a buffet or whatever. And I would skip every meal all day long and save up in preparation for that get together. Am I alone? I hope I'm not. And I found out later as I was going through my weight loss and learning how to eat healthier and becoming certified as a health and wellness coach that, we trick ourselves. We really do ourselves a disservice by taking that approach and skipping meals in preparation for a splurge or a big event because I'm not giving my body the nutrients that we just talked about in our nutrition section. And you're walking into that event in the evening already at a point of famish. You're hungry. You're setting yourself up to make poor food decisions because when you walk in the door, you're going to get hit in the face with all the smells of all that delicious food. And it's going to be very tempting to overdo it, fill our plate more than we should, go back for seconds, thirds, whatever. And we think we're doing okay because we skipped a meal, but we really shouldn't be consuming that many calories in one sitting. It should be, even if you only consume a day's amount of calories by skipping all those meals, by doing that all in one sort of sitting or one small window of time, your body can't handle it. It doesn't know what to do with all that food. It can't process it. It can't digest it properly. You're taxing your systems. So you're better off just eating normally, through the day. And if you know that you're going to be going to a place where there are temptations and that it's just going to be an abundance of things that you probably would overdo, but you really shouldn't, there is nothing saying that you cannot eat before you go. So have a little something. If obviously if you're going to a dinner party at someone's house, you don't want to have an entire meal before you get there because you don't want to be disrespectful and not eat the meal that they've spent the whole day preparing, but have a healthy snack, so that you're not going to be tempted to go directly to the food table or overload yourself. And as you're eating through the day in preparation for that event, you should always try and focus on eating more fiber. Fiber and protein, they're like best buddies. Fiber is what helps us feel satisfied and full, and hardly anyone gets enough of it. We all need to be getting more fiber. It helps keep us regular. It helps us feel full. It helps with our digestion. And the more that we can kind of gird up with that through the day as we're going out for the evening, we're going to feel full and we're not going to be as tempted to overdo it. In general, women should be getting 25 grams of fiber a day and men should be getting 35 grams of fiber. So if that feels like a lot, it's probably significantly higher than what you are getting if you're like 90% of the population who are deficient in the fiber category. But it's a great tool for filling yourself up before you go out so that you're not tempted to overdo it. Should always start when you get to a party, start with the healthy stuff. And most of us already know what those things are, the veggie tray, the fruits, any other kind of healthier option like a salad, being mindful, of course, of dips, dressings, and the other little accoutrements that go with that kind of thing. Fruit dips, they're basically sugar. Let me see here, veggie dips, heavy on the cream. You want to be kind of careful and mindful of those. And so when I go to a party, I tend to load my plate right up with veggies or other healthier things, whatever I can fit on my plate. And then I know that because I've started that way, I'm also getting a little bit of a fiber boost if you're eating some of the fruits and veggies that are available, and that'll fill you up. And then wait. After you eat some of those healthy things, wait about 15 to 30 minutes between finishing that plate and going back up for more food, because that's going to give your body time to digest and acknowledge that you've eaten. And if you're really not sure what's going to be available, there's absolutely nothing wrong with bringing a healthy dish to share with the group. And you never know, you might be preparing a healthier option that someone did not even know existed. And I've brought one of my favorite things to bring is a Mediterranean quinoa pasta salad, or not a pasta, it's a quinoa salad, but they use quinoa instead of pasta. And a lot of my friends didn't even know what quinoa was, but they tried the salad and they liked it. And so now they wanted the recipe, and it turned them on to a healthy option that, before the party didn't even know existed. So you want to bring a dish that you know is not going to make you feel inclined to go overboard. And if you do want seconds or thirds, you know that you can take a second or third of that dish and not feel guilty about going back for seconds or thirds on it. Most of the time I try and bring a veggie or a fruit veggie tray or a fruit plate to events that I go to, so I don't have to worry. I know that regardless of whatever else is there, I can snack on what those things offer without guilt. And, it helps to be prepared. So bring a healthy dish, share the gift of health with someone else. And, you never know who you might be turning on to a new recipe that they can try and that will help bring some information to their lives with healthier food options. We can't talk about the holidays without talking about beverages. And I know we did already address some of this in our group as we've been going through the holidays, but as you can see from this graphic, these calories really do add up quickly, especially when you're drinking things besides water. So in this scenario, just having regular sized beverages with each meal and in between as snacks brought almost 1,400 calories. And when you look at the fact that, the recommendation for a healthy diet is around 2,000 calories a day, that's more than half of the recommended calories just in your beverages. And these beverages usually don't have very much nutritional bang for the buck. They are, they're empty calories. They're not filling you up. They're not satisfying you in any way. They're just empty. So if you're going to use that many calories, it should be giving you some kind of nourishment and energy that's going to help move you through the day to your health and wellness goals. So if you are constantly drinking beverages with every meal or snack, take a look at it, find out what you're doing. And I did put that challenge out there, see what you were drinking. And if you are currently a soda or soft drink drinker, and this would include any kind of sugary drink. So we're talking about Kool-Aids, fruit punches, even the lemonades and some juices that are made with high fructose corn syrup. I just throw them all into this soda category. If you're in this category, you're actually better off enjoying just sweet tea or lemonade or even a fruit punch that you've made yourself, because then you know what's in it. You have more control over the types and the amounts of sugar or sweetener that's being used. So obviously the very best swap out is going to be to drink water instead, because again, you're not getting a nutritional boost by filling up on sugary drinks, even if you make them yourself. And interestingly enough, Consumer Reports did a study that showed that even cutting out just one soda a day from their regular diet caused the average person to lose about 14 pounds a year. And that's pretty significant when you think one soda, and how many people out there, drink multiple sodas a day. So even just cutting out one soda a day for those who drink one or more could equal out to a 14-pound loss just in 1 year from that one change alone. So if you're in the habit of having multiple sodas a day, I encourage you, think about cutting out just one at a time, cut them out, and you're going to benefit your health. You probably will see some weight loss, and look for a less caloric, less sugary substitute like fruit flavored seltzer water. And I know I've shared about my husband switching, and very rarely does he have a soda nowadays, and most of the time he's drinking seltzer water, because what he really missed was the carbonation. So look for a less caloric and a less sugary option for you. And it shouldn't come as any surprise, but the best beverage that we can consume really is water. But if you are out at a party, there are possibly going to be some adult beverages or cocktails being offered. Your best bet is not to hover around the punch bowl. Don't keep getting refills. Pace yourself and look for cocktails that might not be as calorically dense. Look for ones that are using more of a soda water mixer as opposed to those fruit juices or soda mixers. Those will add calories. So there are ways to be mindful, even when it comes to the cocktails that we drink. You really need to keep track of how many you're consuming, because like we saw on that previous slide, those beverages really add up. And you can save yourself, anywhere from 50 to 100 calories in a single glass just by swapping out the mixer or having something straight as opposed to in a mixed beverage. So just be aware of what your goal is and whether your choices are moving you closer or further away from those goals. And so when we talk about water being the best option, what is that right amount of water? Well, anyone who's ever done a diet has probably heard about the 6 to 8 glasses of water. And even that can be a little ambiguous, because when we say glasses of water, like my glassware in my house, I've got different sizes and it might be different than my neighbor's glasses. So what does that look like? It could be anywhere from 4 ounces all the way up to 40, depending on if we've got a big gulp or something kicking around. The only thing that the thing that we really need to consider when we talk about this, though, is the fact that 70% of our bodies are made up of water, comprised of water. So as individuals, we each have a different amount of water in our body that we want to be continually flushing and keeping flowing so that it's properly hydrated. So it would make sense that optimal hydration would then fluctuate with our body weight and size. So when we look at that, 70% of a 200-pound body would be significantly more than 70% of a 100-pound body. So the rule of thumb that we should follow with our drinking of our water is to consume half of our body weight in ounces. So whatever your body weight is in pounds, that's how many ounces, divided in half, sorry. Body weight in pounds divided in half, that's how many ounces you want to aim for. And if you're not drinking that right now, that's okay. Do not wake up tomorrow and start drinking half your body weight in water, in ounces of water, if you've not been, because you could hurt yourself. I'm always about the baby steps. Add in 1 glass at a time, make it a habit. And when you've got that one added, add another until you build up gradually. And I'll talk to you about how we can work through that together here in a little while, but start building up. Look at where your hydration is. And so when you're going out, you make sure you're maintaining your hydration, because that's going to help you a lot when you're out facing those tough decisions. And, if you're not wanting to measure your ounces, I know this is kind of a gross little way of doing it, but it's super easy. An easy way to know whether or not you're properly hydrated is to look in the toilet when you urinate, and look at how yellow it is, because the yellowness of what is expelled is going to show you whether you're properly hydrated or really dehydrated. So this little graphic shows you, the really, really dark yellow is when you're really dehydrated. And you might look that way when you first wake up in the morning, especially if you sleep a lot at night, a longer time at night, because obviously you're not drinking through the night. But it shouldn't take, if you're properly hydrated, it shouldn't take you long. It shouldn't take you more than a few cups of water in the morning to get you back to the hydrated and healthy section. Sometimes when you're over here in this golden yellow, it takes like IV fluid sometimes to get you back where you need to be if you're really, really dehydrated. The one caveat I do want to say about this little method is if you do take a B vitamin or a multivitamin that has a lot of B in it, that B vitamin can also make your urine very bright yellow. So, don't freak out. There are some medications that will sometimes make your urine very yellow, even if you are properly hydrated. So just be sure to take note of the medications that you're taking. And if you know that you're properly hydrating, it could be something related to a medication or a supplement that you're taking. And talking a little more about the holidays, how many of us tend to look a little bit like this around the holidays? Well, I know the holidays do tend to bring on a lot of extra stress. And so we would be remiss if we didn't talk about that a little bit. So stress really does impact our ability to be healthy. And it really matters what we do to manage our stress. And it's important that we do make ways to manage our stress in our life, because our body is producing physical responses to the stress that it's experiencing. And so you'll see that in your cardiovascular function. You'll see that in your breathing, in your respiratory system. Your nerves tend to get shot. And it's not just, your kids standing on your last nerve. It's really legitimate. Your nerves are being impacted by the amount of stress that they're dealing with, and the hormones that are flooding your body, the adrenaline and the cortisol, all those stress hormones, they impact our nervous system. And when it's sustained and chronic stress, it can lead to terrible, terrible, terrible health and wellness outcomes. So it's important that we really always make stress management a part of our self-care toolkits. And, sometimes people get upset stomachs when they're stressed out about things. I mean, it's really amazing, and was really a shock to me, I guess, when I started in this wellness space to learn about how stress really can present itself in a physically manifested way. It can physically, like you can get body aches from stress, and it's unbelievable. But it makes sense because of all the hormones that are engaged in these stress responses, and our hormones are everywhere in our body. So it makes absolute sense that all of these systems are being impacted. And ultimately, stress can lead to weight gain. A study out of Louisiana State University found that as stress hormones like cortisol increased, so do ghrelin levels. And ghrelin is the hormone that stimulates our appetite. So this hunger drives us to eat more and sometimes even binge out on foods. And so we've all experienced this before. We've turned to food to cope with a stressful situation in our life. And further weight gain creates more stress, which leads to more overeating, and so on and so forth. This unhealthy spiral continues. And furthermore, research shows that when stress is leading to these cortisol overflows, we're not craving carrots in those moments, right? When we're stressed out, we're craving comfort foods, and those are not usually the healthiest choices. Those are the tasty, high fat, high carb, high sodium, high calorie dishes. And I'm sure some of you can relate. I hope I'm not the only one. And again, this contributes to that vicious cycle of continuing through the loop. Stress, eat, gain weight, stress, eat, gain weight, vicious cycle. So the stress management piece is an ongoing step that continues to need refocusing, refreshment, and refinement, even after you lose weight or try to get healthy, because implementing some of the stress management techniques and developing them as habits can help you remain aware and mindful when you're encountering stress in real life. And so I've just got a few little stress busting suggestions here. Deep breathing is a really easy, very, very accessible way to manage your stress in a heated moment, when you're cut off in traffic, sometimes just taking that deep calming breath in your car, you can almost feel the calm wash over you from deep breathing. And so there are a lot of videos out there available to guide you through deep breathing exercises. There are a lot of apps out there. One of them that I use is called Balance, and it's got little mindfulness meditations and deep breathing exercises that it'll guide me through. So those are great for stress and so accessible because you don't need any tools or equipment to just slow down and take a deep breath. And you can feel that calm begin to wash over you almost immediately. You can also do a stress journal where you journal and begin to look at some of the ways that your stress is going up and down. So when you're seeing you're in a stressful situation, taking a few minutes to identify what that was from, and having a place where you can compile that information so that you can then have that knowledge, that mindfulness and awareness of what's triggering you and your stress. Essential oils are a tool that I keep in my tool belt all the time. There are a lot of essential oils that are great for stress and anxiety symptoms. And so I use them all the time, diffuse them in the air in my house. I keep rollerball ones that I can put on pulse points and just inhale. So if you've never used essential oils, I'd be happy to talk to you more about that. But essential oils are great way to manage your stress. Participating in activities that we enjoy, around the holidays, it can become very overwhelming and we feel like obligated to do a million things, all the holiday Christmas things, and it can be too much. So taking time to do something that's going to charge you in a positive way is never wrong. Take time to do something that's going to bring you joy, because that's a great way to manage your stress. And if you're always doing things out of obligation, like that's a life of misery, and there are things that you have to do out of obligation. I can't just be like, I never want to cook dinner again out of because I feel it's an obligation. It is an obligation to cook for my family, but it's still a job I have to do. But if I offset it with some things that I enjoy, it's not going to be as stressful to me. Epsom salts are a great way to manage your stress. Epsom salt baths are great. They help with you can mix them actually with essential oils, and most of us have a magnesium deficiency, and Epsom salts are a great way to get magnesium back into our body through our skin. It absorbs. So if you're having muscle aches or just stiffness or soreness as a result of your stress, soaking in a hot Epsom salt bath can help to kind of take down those emotions that are raging and some of the stiffness and soreness, and put back some healthy things. And sometimes even just the taking of a hot bath can kind of put you in a different mindset, so you're a little more relaxed. So another great way, the very best means for managing our stress, is on the front end, getting the proper amount of sleep. Because during our sleep, our body resets the hormones that have gotten out of equilibrium throughout the day. As we've encountered stress, our body kind of gets all our hormones, you're flooding with cortisol is going up, adrenaline all day long. So when you sleep, it all balances back out. So when this is not just superficial sleep or naps, the kind that's resetting and rebalancing is the quality REM sleep, or rapid eye movement phase of our sleep, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. That's our body's opportunity to rebalance itself hormonally. And when we wake up in the morning, our hormones start the day with that level playing field if we've gotten the proper amount of REM sleep. And as we encounter those stressors, our hormones go all over the place, and then ultimately, we hope to get that proper restorative sleep at night so that we'll wake up feeling refreshed, our hormones are renewed, rebalanced, and we're that much stronger to face whatever we're going to encounter through the day. Overall, our health is impacted profoundly by our sleep and our sleep patterns. So as we look at the holidays, we really need to focus on getting the right amount of rest. We might be going out to parties or celebrations or spending later hours at a friend's house, and our hormones may be all out of balance. And as a result, we're less equipped to deal with the decisions that we're making, especially where our health is concerned, especially with those troublesome food decisions. So when our sleep schedules are off, our immune system is going to be less strong. And as we encounter groups of people at the holiday parties, we're going to be more susceptible to germs and things that might be passed around at gatherings. And studies show that some of the chronic conditions that you see here on this slide, like diabetes, mental health, like depression, things like depression, heart disease, and even some cancers, that grow and spread, are triggered by hormone disruptions. And those hormone disruptions can sometimes be negatively impacted by poor sleep habits. So overall, those things can contribute to an earlier age of mortality, which is surprising. But I mean, you think about, like, if you don't get a good night's sleep, you're usually cranky the next day. So you're not waking up fresh. You're not in a good mood. You're more likely maybe to hurt yourself if you're overtired or have an accident. So sleep is fundamental. It's absolutely essential. And so as you can see from this chart, most of us as adults age 18 and over need about 7 to 9 hours. So how are you doing with that sleep target? Are you sleeping too little? Are you sleeping too much? If you're getting less than 7 hours, you're increasing your risk for some of those chronic conditions linked to poor sleep habits. But if you're getting more than 9 hours, you might be setting yourself up for inactive lifestyles and inability to be active because your body's kind of stuck in this sleeping cycle. And by nature, our bodies were designed to follow the circadian rhythm, which is the sun and moon cycles. And our optimal sleep happens when it's dark outside. So I know there are people that work in the evenings and work the overnights. That is really not ideal. And over long periods of time, I mean, if they're not doing all they can to counteract that, it's really setting them up for some negative health impacts. But if you look at this chart around 6 p.m., our body begins to downshift and follow the pattern that the moon is giving by coming up, and it begins to cue our body that it's getting dark out. It's time to start making melatonin, which is the sleep hormone that triggers our body to wind down and feel sleepy. And from there, it still takes, as you see here, about 5 hours for us to reach our deepest sleep. That's the REM sleep, or the rapid eye movement phase of sleep that I was talking about. These are the hours where that restorative healing sleep happens, right there in that little pocket from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. We have about a 4-hour window where our body begins to equalize the hormones. And if you're doing things that disrupt your melatonin secretion and push it back, you might not be starting that REM sleep until about 3 or 4 in the morning. And then if you're getting up at 6 a.m., you haven't had the sufficient amount of REM to truly balance out the hormones the way that they need to be. So don't rob yourself in the sleep department. You might be thinking that you're packing more in, whether it's spending time celebrating the holidays or trying to do double duty at work so that you can take extra time off around the holidays. Whatever your reason, it doesn't really matter. The fact is that you're cutting yourself short in something that is vital for good health, which is good quality sleep. And when we talk about sleep, it's more than just declaring, okay, today is done, and shutting off the light, turning over and going to bed. And some of us can do this. Some of us can easily roll over and be like, I'm going to sleep, and go to sleep. But going to bed actually really starts long before we even hit the sheets. It starts in the afternoon when you make a choice to stop consuming caffeine at least 6 hours before you plan to go to bed. And the half-life of caffeine means that your body needs that amount of time to process through the caffeine. So you may be able to physically lay down and close your eyes and sleep, but your body is still going. It's still processing that caffeine. And that means your melatonin levels are going to continue to remain low because it's not done its day jobs yet. Alcohol is another one that our body needs time to process. And again, about 3 hours before we go to bed, we need to be stopping with alcohol consumption because our body will continue to process that. We also don't want to be eating more than 2 to 3 hours within 2 to 3 hours of going to sleep, because our body is still going to be going through the digestive process. And that's going to, even if you are physically going to sleep, your body internally is still working. Your body internally is still awake, and it's still doing its thing. The same thing with exercise, although it makes us feel good and sometimes we feel tired afterward, the endorphins and the adrenaline that it releases will continue to flood our system for up to 2 hours after we finish a workout. So we got to be really careful about the things that we're doing within our bedtime range so that we're not inadvertently pushing back our REM sleep. We want to get there at the right time so that we can get the maximization of it. Another big sticky point, especially for me, are electronics. Electronics emit a blue light that prevents our body from producing the melatonin that we need to go to sleep. And so if we are using our blue light emitting devices throughout the day and into the night, it's triggering our body not to make melatonin and pushing back that REM sleep even further. So the more we keep that blue light on, our body is working to process it and nullify it so that we can begin our melatonin production, but it pushes it back, pushes it way off. And so bedtime routines might be something you only thought pertained to children, but it's important that we as adults also establish our own routine for winding down at night. So this timeline shows when we should cut those certain sleep disrupting behaviors off so that we can get that great restorative sleep. And our last talking point about the healthy holidays is, of course, movement. It's important that we keep moving throughout the holiday season and in life. There have been many studies about the negative effects of sitting for too long and how those negative effects, how they can negatively impact our health. And some have even gone as far to say that sitting is as dangerous for your health as smoking. And obviously it's not the same as inhaling the carcinogens into your lungs, but it still can be very, very detrimental. Even if you work out for multiple hours at the end of a workday comprised mostly of sitting and being sedentary, it does not undo the potential damage that inactivity may have caused. So it only takes 90 minutes for the blood flow behind your knees to slow by 50%. So if you're sitting, for example, at a desk for 8 hours a day and you're not getting up and walking around and forcing your blood to circulate, you may be experiencing this phase of atrophy that can lead to permanent damage to your muscles and compromise your strength long term. And that leads to a higher risk of heart disease and can even reduce your life expectancy. So really being vigilant about not sitting too much through the holidays and beyond, it's essential. Another great way to be accountable for your movement. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. We've got a few little tips here. First, to talk about how to get more movement in our day. So this little tip I love to do is the sit for 60, move for 3. Set an alarm. That's a sit. If you're sitting for 60 minutes, you need to move around for 3 minutes at the end of it. So do it. Set a little alarm, have a Fitbit that vibrates on your arm once an hour. That'll kind of cue you to get up. Don't sit down anymore. And if you're working in an office, you can even do this with colleagues. I've done it with my colleagues at my old job where we would set alarms for different hours and each take charge of those 3 minutes and who would lead what. And we'd do some stretches and whoever was in charge's alarm would go off and we'd all get up and do our 3-minute little thing together. Wherever you can, and I know some have heard this one, use the stairs whenever you can. Go up and down. If you got to make an extra trip, don't view it as a stressor, view it as a bonus. You're getting those extra steps in, and the up and down movement is even better. Park further away. I know this is another one that people say all the time, but it really works. People want to know how to increase your steps. Every little bit adds up. So anything you can do to add in those steps is only going to help you. If you have a pet, taking those extra walks when the dog is wanting to go out, don't just stick them on a runner, take them out, take them for a walk, get those extra steps in for both of you. And you can add steps by hand delivering something instead of emailing or texting or calling. If you have a friend that lives around the block, instead of, making it convenient by dropping something off on your way to or from somewhere else, take a little special trip, walk down there and hand deliver whatever it was. Anywhere you can get more movement in, you're only helping yourself. And another great way to be accountable for your movement is to schedule your exercise. And a lot of people will make a plan to work out 3 times that week. But if you don't actually schedule it in and you're too general with your planning, Friday can quickly roll around and catch you off guard. And so it's important that you set that specific time, block it out, write it in your calendar, just like you would with a doctor's appointment. You'll be less likely to cancel on yourself this way. Put it in a place where it's visible, where it's going to remind you these are meetings that you have with yourself for your health. So you really have to view them as important. And if you view them as movable and flexible and you're constantly pushing it off, you're going to continue to push it off. So make it an appointment, value it, don't cancel. Do the workout that you've scheduled, go to your appointment and do your exercise. Make the appointment for yourself with exercise. If you need to, make it with a friend. Schedule it with a friend so that you can both hold each other accountable. And that's a great way to get started if you have trouble keeping your own appointments for exercise. Do it with a friend who will hold you accountable. Make sure you show up. And don't cancel on yourself. And a lot of people use the excuse that they don't have time to work out, but you really do need to remember it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to feel like you have to chisel out a whole hour for a workout. There's a lot of evidence out there now that shows that even if you do short workouts throughout the day, it can be just as beneficial as a 1 hour total workout. And we can all find 10 or 15, 20 minutes in the day. Honestly, even 5 minutes of exercise is better for you than no minutes. So even if it's not 60 minutes, any movement is better than no movement. Break it up. If you can't do 15 minutes, do 3 5-minute sessions. If you can't do 30 minutes, do 3 10-minute sessions, do 2 15-minute sessions, whatever you need to do. If you don't have time for a long workout, don't buy into the lie that you can't work out, that it's not going to be effective. There's so much stuff out there. There are apps, there are YouTube videos, there are smart TV apps, and you can find workouts from 1 minute to several hours in length and everything in between. We can all do something, and we all should do something. So, any little thing, even if it's just taking an extra couple runs up and down your steps a few times a day, it's better than doing nothing. So even through the holidays, stay focused on your physical fitness and movement, and make sure that you schedule and make time for it. So those are my things for healthy through the holidays and ideas for how to move through them and maintain your health and wellness goals. And I just want to share some final thoughts. If you don't get anything else from me, these are my parting words of wisdom here. Always be open to trying new things, whether it's a new food, a new vegetable, a new type of working out. If you never tried it, you never know. It may be the thing that you absolutely love and you just didn't know. So be willing to try. Try it once, try it a couple times. Keep trying if you think it's something that's going to be really good for you and you should do. Keep trying it until it becomes a habit, and you never know, it might be the best thing. Continue to learn about your body. Just because something's good for one person doesn't mean it's good for every person. And what's healthy for one person may not be healthy for another. So you need to know what's right for your body. And that's a continual learning process. As I went through my weight loss and maintaining and continuing to try and factor in health and wellness initiatives in my life, I continue to learn about how my body processes certain foods, and certain foods that, although they're super healthy, they're not good for me. And so if we are mindful, you're going to begin to see those things very clearly, and you're going to know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And you're going to be able to make the adjustments that are going to be sustainable for you. So be a student of your body and fine tune it for your life, because if it's dramatic and crazy and it's a full-time job, it's never going to be maintainable. It's got to work for you. It's got to work for your life. So whatever you're doing, don't make it overwhelming. Don't make it complicated, but it needs to be specific to you. And my favorite thing to do is to encourage everybody on the baby steps and making one small change at a time. Every single time I tried the complete overhaul, and you know what I'm talking about, buying all the healthy foods and joining the gym and throwing out every bad thing in my house, starting fresh on Monday. Every time I did one of those sweeping overhauls, I failed. And I finally succeeded at losing over 100 pounds and keeping it off by making one small change at a time and not moving on until those changes became a habit. And once one became a habit, I added another healthy habit, and so on and so forth. So make one small change. You maybe can't do everything, and that's okay. I couldn't do everything. Many people can't do everything, and a lot of people can only do everything for a very short period of time. Don't be one of those people. Be the one who can do it for life by making one small change at a time. What's one healthy thing? Maybe you can just have an extra glass of water tomorrow morning. Maybe that's really all you got. And if that's all you got, that's awesome. Do it, because one extra glass of water more than you drank today is going to be better for you in the long run. So if that's the only change you can make, do it. Find that one small thing that you can do and make that change today. And don't wait. Oh my goodness, guys, if I had $1 for every single time I started over, I could be retired and a millionaire probably by now, because I would wait and wait. I'd start over, but I can't start over on a Tuesday. I got to start over on a Monday because that's a fresh start day. And nobody starts a diet on a Thursday. So don't wait. If you screw up, don't wait and start over. Those were the stupidest choices I ever made for myself when I was in the diet mindset. Like, oh, I screwed up this whole day. It's shot. I might as well just go nuts. don't wait. If you make a mistake, if you make a bad choice, don't worry about it. The next choice can be a good one. Don't wait. Don't wait till tomorrow. Get right back on it with your very next choice. You don't have to wait. Every minute you have a choice. Make the next one a good one that works for you. And like I said before, don't make it complicated. Don't make it harder than it has to be. It doesn't have to be hard. It has to be sustainable. Otherwise, it's not going to be successful. So don't make it hard. It doesn't have to be complicated or a full-time job. And wherever you're at on this journey, love yourself, because we can spend so much time beating ourselves up and thinking we're stuck and we're never going to get out of this place, or we're never going to be the weight we want to be, or we're never going to look the way we want to look, or we're never going to be able to run a marathon or a half marathon or even a 5K, for crying out loud. Wherever you are on this journey, you have to love yourself. You have to embrace where you're at and love that person in the mirror and let them know that you're doing the best you can. And that's all you can do. You're one person. Love yourself. So I want to invite you to join me in the new year. I was looking at doing a paid membership community, but instead I got some feedback that people were interested in going through the baby steps. And the Baby Steps to Better Health program is my signature program. These are the steps that I took to lose my weight. And I did it very gradually. Over a year and a half, it took me to lose 100+ pounds. And I've kept it off now for 5 years. And I did it this way because, as I just mentioned, the overhauls never ever worked for me. So obviously you're not going to move through all the baby steps in 12 weeks, which is what this program is. But each week I introduce one of the habits that I introduced in my journey. And so I coach you through the baby steps with live videos, with daily posts, encouragement, support, and a lot of great interaction with the participants. And I invite you to join me on this journey and see if you can find some habits that you can implement that'll help you move closer to your health and wellness goals. And if you are interested, I am registering people right now for a group program. It's a 12-week program. It's going to kick off at the beginning of January, because we all know how everyone loves to start fresh in the new year. So I know I said don't wait, and you can, if you sign up right now, you can get in the group and we'll start doing some free stuff before January, because I don't want to wait. If you're feeling like now's the time and you're ready to get your life back and get off the dieting roller coaster and look at this approach that's not like any diet I've ever done in my entire life, I hope you'll join me because, I love sharing this information with everyone. I love sharing the tips, and people, when they hear all the things that I did, they were like, wait, what? That's all you did? And I'm not even kidding. When you put them all together, it is powerful. So I hope you'll join me. You can learn more about it, zellbeing.com/group2022, and learn a little more about the program and what's involved. And I hope I'll see some of you there. And if you want to just connect with me outside of this platform or in general, this is where you can find me on social media or my website. And if you aren't interested in a group program, I also do the Baby Steps to Better Health as a one-on-one, and I do some one-on-one coaching. So if you want to work with me, you can still do that, even if you're not interested in the Baby Steps group. But I hope this has been helpful, and I will continue to see you all in the Facebook group as we continue on our journey through healthier holidays. So have a great night, and we'll see you soon.